Now, joining us, because I've still got Tom Jocelyn, who's the senior editor of the Long War Journal. We're joined now by James Phillips from the Heritage Foundation. He's a Middle East expert as well. He's joining us from Fox Studios in Washington, D.C. So I'd like to have a three-way conversation about this. Mr. Phillips, I want to talk to you about the Iranian ships through the Suez. We were just talking to an Israeli journalist who seems very concerned about Iran's move, not just through the Suez Canal, but what seems to be an encirclement of Israel. What are you making of the Iranian ships through the Suez?
Well, I think the movement is primarily a propaganda move that has really harvested tremendous benefits. These ships are not a direct threat to Israel, although indirectly you wonder what they're transporting, because it probably is arms for Hezbollah in Lebanon through Syria. And so that is a reason for concern. And I think because Israel has intercepted previous freighters laden with these arms, the Iranians probably decided to put it on a military ship that wouldn't be as subject to being inspected by the Israeli Navy. But it is a signal that Iran is sending that it's flexing its muscles. It's surrounding not only Israel but Saudi Arabia and other members of the Gulf Cooperation Council, and that it's definitely a power on the move.
Mm-hmm. If we could switch now, Jim Phillips from the Heritage Foundation, we have just been receiving word of the oil companies in Libya that are planning to leave Libya and to evacuate their people, and it's a really extensive list. You'll see from this map: Canada, the United Kingdom, BP from the United Kingdom, Suncor from Canada, State Oil from Norway, Shell from Netherlands, Wintershall from Germany, Austria, Eni, of course, from Italy, the largest Italian energy company, Spain, Total from France. They're all in the prospects of evacuating their personnel from Libya right now. What is this? I mean, what are we to make of all this? Do they know something we don't know? Is there potentially violence against their own people?
I think they're very concerned about the possibility that their people may be injured inadvertently in violence or targeted by the regime or by perhaps Islamist elements that are increasingly probably will be operating within Libya. There's a potential for hostage taking as either the regime or insurgent groups try to gain political ends, and I think it's a smart move to do this preemptively and pull the people out.
Yeah, but I mean, Tom Jocelyn, if they do this, then what happens to all the energy and oil coming out of Libya? I assume that just is all just drying up then, because most of these people are the people who are running the oil facilities in Libya.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, the biggest, in terms of economics of all this, you could clearly see some disruption in oil supply, throughout all this. I mean, in Libya, as with all these countries, it's not clear how this is going to play out. So if I were a member of one of these companies, I would be afraid I'd be pulling my personnel out as well. I mean, you can't tell in these revolutions.
Nobody wants another Iranian hostage situation.
Exactly. I mean, the other thing is, some of these groups, like in Libya, some of these Al-Qaeda affiliates, jihadist groups, they specialize in kidnapping executives. They specialize in kidnapping Westerners and holding them for ransom. So, I mean, this type of heightened, insecure environment, I could see that, that was definitely an increased possibility.
We're seeing pictures now of the people who are leaving Libya right now. These are the Dutch who are leaving and Americans who are being air transported out. We are also have learned that there are ferry boats that the United States is putting in the port in Tripoli to get Americans out and taking them over to Malta. Doesn't look like there are a lot of empty seats on those planes. Jim Phillips, what do you think? How do you think this is going to play out? I mean, do you think in Libya we have civil war? Do you think these dominoes continue to fall throughout the Middle East? Who's next? What's your take?
I think it's going to be a lot bloodier and a lot messier in Libya than elsewhere. And Colonel Gaddafi has already signaled that he wants to die as a martyr in Libya, and I think there's a good chance he will get his wish. It appears that the army already has split, with some of the commanders of garrisons in eastern Libya going over to the opposition. The Air Force reportedly is bombing some bases and ammunition stores, presumably to keep them out of the hands of the opposition. So in Egypt and Tunisia, the army stayed cohesive and intact, and was able to play, because of that, it was able to play a stabilizing role after the head man was forced out. But in Libya, I think partly because Colonel Gaddafi has faced so many coup attempts from his own army in the past, he's developed much more loyal special elite troops that remain loyal to him. And so if the bulk of the army turns into factions and starts going at it tooth and nail, I think he can depend on some of these elite troops.
Yeah. Who's next, Tom? Who in the middle? I mean, we've now seen, you know, what, about 10 countries so far that have been racked by violence. Would you want to, is Saudi Arabia potentially in play?
You know, Saudi Arabia, I don't think so, but you never know. I mean, I didn't expect Libya.
Is there a Muslim Brotherhood in Saudi Arabia?
Oh yeah, Saudi Arabia was a long time allied with the Muslim Brotherhood, but there's tension now, and there has been, especially since 2003, between the Saudi royals and the most violent wings of the jihadist movement. You know, they've cracked down on Al-Qaeda and jihadist groups inside Saudi Arabia itself, while continuing to. What
about Jordan?
Jordan, you know, you can see that there are high-level meetings there between the Brotherhood and the royal family. You know, it's possible that there's something going on there, but I wouldn't get in the prognostication business. I didn't expect Libya there's one other thing on Libya, too, by the way, that I think you keep your eye out for, which is that Colonel Gaddafi and his son negotiated these agreements with Islamist groups and jihadist groups in the last year or so, where they brokered the deal to allow a lot of them out of prison.
Right, right.
And it's interesting to keep your eye on to see whether or not that's going to come back to bite them at all. If any of these groups
do these jihadist groups then turn around, mobilize, and go after Gaddafi?
I just saw a report this afternoon. I don't know if it's true, so I would caution this is an early report, but I just saw an early indication that a former Guantanamo detainee is actually declared an Islamic emirate in part of Libya, and is rallying jihadists to his cause.
This is a solution to what to do with Gitmo.
Yeah.
Right? We can send them to Libya. I'm not sure that's what we have in mind.
The Libyan government is trumpeting those claims. Local villagers around the area where this is happening are saying that that's not true. But so it's an early report. But you know, you see this type of indication that you
still
have
really chaos. I mean,
it's chaos.
It's chaos. Jim, what do you think? Who do you think is next? Saudi Arabia, Jordan? And you want to take a guess?
I'm very concerned about Bahrain. I think the kings in Saudi Arabia and Jordan have some things going for them. In Jordan, the king has a very loyal army, and he's kind of appointed politicians as prime ministers as shock absorbers, and he's changed those, and he's gone part way to meet some of the demands of the demonstrators. And in Saudi Arabia, they have a lot more money to spread around. The king just recently basically attempted to bribe his own people by raising their benefits. And, you know, there are many Saudis that would think twice about killing the goose that lays the golden egg. But in Bahrain, I think the situation is very dicey, because you have a Sunni monarchy or Sunni dynasty that is living in leading a country that is 70% Shia, and that gives Iran all kinds of opportunities to stir the pot, and tensions are very high there.
Okay, one final thought, Jim Phillips from the Heritage Foundation. Tell us very quickly, if you can, how vulnerable is the U.S. Fifth Fleet, which is home ported in Bahrain?
Well, I think there are about 4,000 U.S. personnel in Bahrain. I believe they have a pretty hardened headquarters there, but they rely on the protection of the Bahrain government. Right now, I've seen no reports that they're in any kind of danger. And in fact, I think the opposition would be wise not to threaten them, because that could change U.S. policy towards the king.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Jim Phillips from the Heritage Foundation joining us from Washington.
Thank you.
Thank you.